What's up, everybody? Josh or Miho here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the debut album from the band Witherscape, entitled The Inheritance. This is released on Century Media Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Sweden, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very atmospheric, old-school blending of both melodic death metal and progressive metal. This is a project formed by a guy by the name of Dan Swano. Now, if you're a fan of both death metal and melodic death metal, a guy like Dan Swano needs absolutely no introduction. You may best know him for his work with bands such as Bloodbath, Edge of Sanity, Nightingale, to his more current work as a behind-the-scenes type of guy, doing mixing, mastering, and engineering, doing work with bands such as Asphyx, Hail of Bullets, Catatonia, Barren Earth, a who's who of great bands within both death metal and melodic death metal. Yeah. Now we have this latest offering from Dan Swano. He hired someone to help with the guitar and bass work, and he basically does the drums, the vocals, and the keys. So, I'll be perfectly honest. Prior to this review, when I was music shopping at my local FYE store, I was looking for music, just, browsing the metal section like I normally would do there. And I saw this album called The Inheritance by Witherscape. I had heard about it, but I really didn't dig too deep into it. So in any kind of case, this would be considered a blind buy. I had heard nothing from this album. I had heard of it, but I've heard no music. So in getting this album, I didn't know what kind of expectations to have. So I had given this album many listens, and here are my thoughts. It's 9 tracks, and it clocks in at around 43 minutes in length. And I gotta be perfectly honest and say that this is an album that definitely took me by surprise. This is one of those albums, like, let me paint a scene for you. You're watching a movie. You love it. You love every single minute of it. And once the credits come to an end, you're at your feet, clapping, cheering, and whistling, wanting more, and expecting an encore or a reprise of some kind. That's the kind of feeling I got when I listened to The Inheritance. And this album took me by surprise. I mean, as much as I love death metal, progressive and melodic death metal stuff is very hard for me to really just grasp sometimes. But this album definitely is the one that did it for me. I am in love with this album. This is just some amazing, beautiful stuff to be heard here. Such a great, refreshing concept, great musicianship, and just so much intelligence and heart behind it. I really loved it. And yeah, the guitar and bass work on here is incredibly stellar. I just love the way everything is woven here. Great interplay, great riffs, great bass licks. It's all there, and I think it sounds fantastic. Like, take the first couple of tracks that you hear on this album, Mother of the Souls and Astrid Falls. You get a mixture of some incredibly crushing riffs, some dynamic chord progressions, and to almost some very calm and patient sounds, like you're listening to some progressive rock. A little bit of that King Crimson edge going on. And I think it really sounds amazing. The solo work sounds great. Going back to the bass, I think it sounds very awesome. It's a very well mixed and mastered bass tone. Definitely appropriate for a melodic death metal album. And definitely something that has that really trademark Swedish kind of sound. I think it's great. I love that about the guitar and bass here. The drums on here really sound fantastic. Very well structured, very simplified, but yet they are played incredibly well. I just love the way that the beats are. It can range from being very metal orientated to very prog rock orientated, and I think each stroke of the drum of the snare, the kick, and everything. I think it feels and sounds great. It feels very natural, clean but not too clean, but yet I think the drums are played incredibly well. And the usage of keyboards here sound amazing. I mean, going back to the prog rock influences that you hear on this album, it almost kind of takes you back to the last Opeth record, Heritage. Although I think with the Inheritance, it sounds way, way better and a lot more fluid. I love that about this usage of the keys and the orchestration that's going on here. I think it's incredible. It's very awesome, and it definitely adds a new layer of intensity to this album's story. And moving on to the vocals, wow. The vocals are so amazing. Dan's vocal work is fantastic. I mean, his growls are incredibly booming and powerful. You can understand why he's so revered as a death metal vocalist. His growls are phenomenal. The way he roars his words, it's just amazing. But that's not the kicker here. The kicker here is his cleans, his singing. It is so amazing. Beautiful, clean singing going on. I just love his emotion, his power. It's very, very much from the heart. And the way he delivers his vocals and lyrics, and the lyrics that are being used here, I think it's awesome. And I gotta tell you, this album has a very, very unique concept to it. Concept albums are very hard to really awesome concept albums are very hard to come across nowadays, but this one has a really interesting concept. Basically, someone from the 1800s who found out that he is the receiver of a very large inheritance, unbeknownst to him, and then going forward to finding out more, crazy things happen. And with each single song that's on this album, you get woven into an incredible storyline. And I think it's an amazing story. I mean, the almost beneficial of wanting to be a motion picture. That's the kind of vibe you get with this album, that old world 1800s kind of vibe. I think that's awesome with the way these lyrics are structured. I think this conceptual part of this album is fantastic. So if you're a fan of Opeth or Amorphous or Catatonia or anything that Dan Swano has done in his music career, you will find something to enjoy with Witherscape. I think this is a sensational debut, definitely worth repeated listens. And as far as melodic death metal goes, or progressive death metal, this is something to behold. It is amazing stuff, and I definitely recommend it to anybody who is a fan of anything I just mentioned. So if I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Mother of the Souls, Astrid Falls, Dying for the Sun. That's another amazing track. The Math of the Myth, and the Wedlock Observation. So I'm going to show you the album again. This is the Inheritance by Witherscape. This is released on Century Media Records. Check this out, and I'm going to give this a very strong 9 out of 10. Amazing melodic death metal with progressive elements. Dan Swano does it again, and pretty much he should pat himself on the back for having to help create something so masterful. So support Witherscape. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Armijo out.